Stalking in helicopter as I'm documenting speaker companies. That's LAPD in helicopter. Right there. While you're looking at, again, Carla Lopez, he's going to federal prison. Juan Carlos is going to federal prison. Maria Hernandez is going to federal prison. Then she's going to be deported. Maria Solis Alvarez is going to federal prison. Then she's going to be deported. And you also have Selena Robledo, who's going to federal prison. This is the light source that's in alignment to me. I'm inside of the apartment that I was standing and at my front door this morning at 10:46 while that same police department was using a helicopter, stalking in the path, flying in relevant position, and the sound of that helicopter was amplified, which is demonic. The entity, which is speaker companies that's engaged in state surveillance, are sending text messages while impossible light activity is on my ceiling. This is recognition of what is federal stalking. I only have one hand, and this is not sunlight that's appearing both on my ceiling and on, again, what would be the ground or downward, in other words, beneath you and also above you, nor is it the sun that would be at the same property as I'm looking out of the window of the same property. And also you already are aware of that because where you have one aspect of the P.O.C, you have all elements, the system is underway, and that's why you also see the entity stalking in helicopter, pursuant to a pattern of documenting the people of the state, which is further corroborating and providing evidence against speaker companies who in particular are going to federal prison. This is also directly going against what is Heather Teal, who is also a third-party group stalker working for a third-party company, exhibiting what is malice while engaged in criminal defamation, harassment as an entity, which is what I documented her criminal conduct on behalf and in concert with the people and the state, where I'm on the same property and the light source is present and the entity is flying over my head, threatening my life, threatening my safety, my overall well-being, while they're asking questions that while they are monitoring you, they know the answer to, and then seeking to and failing at mischaracterizing the legally significant criminal conduct of a corrupt government by an attorney. That's what they're failing at doing, and I'm going to prosecute them for it. This is demonic. This is demonic. And it is also revealing what is Heather Teal's demon possession, by the way, while she's engaging in that highly malicious criminal conduct in concert with that state that just provided evidence against her, stalking in the path, and the scientific impossibility where the sun would never be present, which is what you're looking at now. And let's just recall where I was at this morning. The entity is maintaining this light source while this demon, the twin son of Carol, which is Hyun Lee, and Ty Lee, who've exhibited their demon possession. And they also brought into life what are the demon-possessed minions that are group stalking and terrorizing American citizens in concert with their parents. And so that's significant about what he's doing on a bike. He's engaging in what is pacing on a bike. So this is where I'm at this morning, and we're going to look at this video where I'm out front side of my front door. This is 10:46 in the morning. The people of the state. This is open engagement in what is terrorism, and then the entity that is monitoring you is then seeking to obstruct justice, naming the same people of the state, speaking to what is looking up your podcast. They're scared about your conversation while you're meandering. And the reality is that they're not looking up anything. The entity is aware of everything that's being published onto the internet. They're engaged in state surveillance with that entity that's stalking. That's the state that's stalking in helicopters. These corrupt law enforcement agencies. That's engineered light, not sunlight that would appear underneath a covered structure. And that's the light source that's directly above me as I captured this at 10:46 in the morning. I am right now inside of that same apartment where LAPD is flying in relevant position that is stalking in the unnatural environment, which is demonic, and the behavior in that demonic environment is criminal, both because it's the state that has no lawful basis to keep you under surveillance, the definition of remaining where you are, also remaining where I am and following wherever it is I go while that unnatural environment remains, which is demonic activity. Pursuant to what I do as I do it, that's monitoring by demons who use helicopters and are acting in concert with the people of the state. That's the significance of what I just captured right now. This is the light source that's outside of my window at that's 10:46 in the morning. Okay, well, it is 5:34 p.m. right now, and this is what I captured at 5:20 while I'm standing outside, and the entity is group stalking. This is engineered light that's on my ceiling. That's not sunlight, nor is that the sun that would be at the same property. This is the same exact property, and I'm literally inside of the same apartment. And this is a duration of time 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh yeah, that's 7 hours. So the entity is again engaging in what is suggesting that the sun is going to be present at over the same property, to the exclusion of everywhere else in the country, in the state, in the city. Because it's not over Chase Bank in downtown LA, while it's over me at my apartment. pattern on the ceiling, shields pattern down onto the floor, aiming it into the so-called sun. And I'm talking about, what am I describing in that? I'm describing the light activity you see on my ceiling. You're looking at the light activity outside. The blinds are closed, okay? You're looking at what is supposedly sunlight. You see the shadow of the tree that appears on the building outside. The entity is engaged in what is aiming engineered light, and that is not the sun. That's a light source that's also horizontal. It's in alignment with my position inside of my apartment. It's not the sun that would be over us, high in the sky above us. Secondly, that's not sunlight that's ricocheting, appearing on the building outside, and also appearing inside of my apartment, like you just saw on my ceilings and on downward at a downward trajectory on my bed, appearing through closed blinds, magnified in size. Even the leaves on the trees that are outside while the blinds are closed are, as I've shown you, dynamic engineered light while the blinds are closed, entirely demonic. That's what I'm referencing. And the entity is maintaining this light source while LAPD provides evidence against Heather Till and all of the people of the state, many of whom I documented by license plate. And it includes Budget, who's engaged in surveillance. This is the light source. And this is the light source over building 1818 in alignment to me at 5:18 p.m. It is currently 5:36 p.m. You just saw LAPD flying in relevant position. That's how you are identifying what is stalking. They are stalking me. They're engaged, and there's a pattern of documented stalking by other law enforcement agencies pursuant to a same exact pattern, acting with simultaneity to what I do as I do it. Even as I document what is not coincidental, the fact that helicopters seem to follow me everywhere that I go, which is not a figment of the target individual's imagination, when you capture it in evidence, that is unmistakable and insurmountable, by the way, in a federal court. Okay, where the corrupt courts in the state that are facilitating venues where demons are sitting on the benches and demons are sitting in the public defender's office and district attorney's offices will not dismiss and criminally defame that targeted individual, for which I've documented, and they're all going to federal prison while I document LAPD providing, which is the state, providing evidence against all of that entity that is already captured within the P.O.C. They're already caught, in other words, in the trap, which is evidence that you can never escape because it's a pattern. That's the purpose of a pattern. They're engaged in a cycle. They engage in the same thing over and over and over again. It is under no circumstances, you're looking at 10:49 in the morning. This is evidence that no court will ever disregard and what you yourself cannot in any way ignore. And this is entirely impossible. It is the scientific impossibility that the sun, suggesting, especially while you are wherever you're at on this day, on this time, at this time, but even wherever you're at, the sun is not over you, first of all, while it's directly over me. And in addition to that, that it is over you at any time of the day while it's remaining, as I capture duration of time analysis, 10:49 in the morning to 5:18 in the afternoon, and it's still outside of my window right now at 5:38 p.m. That's the unnatural environment, and it's also telling you about the environment that's surrounding you. All right. First of all, it's also revealing what is the condition of those that are group stalking. Only the demon possessed are group stalking, and that population is engaged in a massive sex offense as they are molesting you with engineered light for a criminal system of keeping you under surveillance, and that's why they'll be prosecuted as sex offenders. In addition to the fact that they're keeping you under surveillance inside of a private space where there is no break. When you're taking your clothes off and you're engaged in private activity, even ignorantly with a third party group stalker, you don't consent to having sex with the entity, which is a matter of public information, analogous to the creation of pornography outside of your knowledge and consent. They're sex offenders. And they're doing so without your knowledge. No target individual is consenting to having sex and letting a whole police department keep you under surveillance while it's occurring, while they're engaging in demonic pacing, flying in circles all over the place with your every move during the course of that sexual conduct, which is entirely demented. But you're understanding, what is the template? What is their pattern of conduct? I just want you to take that whole template that you understand what they're doing, now apply it to something as sick as monitoring someone when they're engaged in a sexual act with another person that they don't even know is monitoring them. Okay, that's their whole other levels of sicko there, okay? Just to put it in the vernacular. It's entirely disturbing, and this is a crime committed by a population, not just that third party that's engaging in a sex act, and that's a violation. That's not consensual. You don't consent to that. And they'll be prosecuted for that specifically, individually, but they represent the entity, the people of the state, and they're all going to be prosecuted for that sex offense, including the government, which acts through the people in the specific environment. Your body is being molested with engineered light. The entity is maintaining engineered light under what's not even possibly the sun. 10:49 in the morning, 10:46, 10:49 is when the video ends, and it's after 5 o'clock, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 hours later, the entity is maintaining the light source directly over me while I'm at the same property. Let's look at the map again. Okay, because this is common sense. This is not rocket science, and this is evidence that no court, no person can reasonably disregard. That's the purpose of the pattern of conduct. I am at one address, okay, distinct from wherever it is that you are, and where you are at. And let me also be clear: Alvarado Gardens, the property, is distinct from the Chase Bank that's off of the 5 freeway. Okay, it's not the same location. It's not over that location at the same time. It is remaining directly over this property, and it is distinct from any other location. It's not over the Arco on Glendale Boulevard down the street from me. It's remaining over the property, and that's exactly what you see in the evidence in the videos. My shadow is right there beneath me, and not only is it not over any other location, it's clearly over me, which is, again, the pattern of conduct, stalking in the path with light. Guess who's stalking in your path? The whole community, the whole environment, while the light source stays over you from beginning till the end of the day. That includes where a demon-possessed and corrupt government that serves Satan, that is aware of its exposure as a matter of documentation, engaging in that same criminal conduct, that same obsessive stalking, notably in helicopters, just doing so, covering up the light source for the first half of the day, or maintaining a subdued light source over you in the same position, equally impossible at any time of the day, because what else exists? There's a whole body of evidence speaking to the fact that the sun would never be anywhere over this property or in LA, because you already provided the asininity of admitting that it's not the natural environment while the sun is documented rising and setting over me at the Ontario Museum of History and Arts at 225 South Euclid Avenue in Ontario, California. That's a matter of conclusive evidence. So the entity is, again, providing evidence against the entire entity. And what else is the pattern within that pattern? Oh, the entity provides ongoing evidence against itself and everyone else, and I mean the whole state, when it always arrives in helicopter as I'm capturing particularly damning evidence, speaking to the fact that they are in fact demons and their group stalking, which is demonic activity. Group stalking is demonic activity. These demons, these malicious criminals and violent sex offenders are engaging in via the fictitious exercise of authority, a psychopath asking me questions that you know the answer to. Everything that came out of Heather Till's mouth, I cannot stress this enough. I'm going to prosecute her for that. That's revealing. That is the mental illness made manifest. And these sex offenders that are speaker companies are sending text messages while I am being surrounded with, suggesting that all of the universe with regard to sun and sunlight is surrounding me. They're doing so with simultaneity to what I document about their criminal conduct. They do so also as a pattern with simultaneity to the entity that uses helicopters to engage in the elements of monitoring and to communicate a threat. Also, while you're documenting the people or documenting the state, and they do so while you are surrounded by that natural environment. That is the P.O.C. period. It's called Operation of Your Communication Device, which is within the P.O.C. And they're all going to federal prison. This is SoCal speaker companies in Southern California. The whole group's going to federal prison. The ones that are going to be deported are Maria Hernandez and Maria Solis Alvarez. They're engaging also in a sex offense, and they're doing so on behalf of the whole entity at 5:30 p.m. Where's the light source? Oh, the light source is right outside of my window, as though the sun would ever be present at 5:30 after being over my head at the same property at 10:46 in the morning, where, by the way, in both videos, you're looking at the entity stalking in helicopters, which is the hallmark. Okay, Silverview Townhomes, crossing path, light activity, amplified audible activity of a helicopter. That's an act of terrorism, and so is Budget. I'm going to drain the pockets. Budget is already a heavily documented group stalker. They're an LA group stalking, and the entity is providing what is clapping sounds of helicopter. That is speaking to the stalking presence of a corrupt law enforcement agency that is demon possessed, engaging in the state's criminal system. The criminal system is demonic, and also doing so in a private space, engaged in federal stalking on the video of the internet. And this poor unfortunate soul, you see the light source through the windshield, this demon is going to be put out of his misery, meaning he's going to federal prison, and he can go back to his parents' country of origin, but he's going to federal prison, and I believe he was born in Los Angeles. That's the only reason why he's not being shipped out of here. But this is a disturbed individual. This is demonic, and he's exhibiting impunity, and he's aware of everything that I'm stating. And it's not because of my volume, it's because they're demons that are engaging what is the pattern of conduct, acting with simultaneity to my every move, everything that I say, and everything I do on a communication device, which is so psychotic when you have a demon working for human resources, referencing that she has a recording. No, that's a demon, and they know exactly what's being said while they're repeatedly crossing path in the specific environment where there's not going to be any sun. There's no sun over the parking garage at the Victoria Gardens at 5:21 p.m. while it's remaining in alignment to my bedroom here, and there's no sunlight that's going to appear on my ceiling. You also know that as a matter of fact, prima facie, with regard to prosecuting the government and the people, everybody in relevant position, because sunlight doesn't do this, and the sun is not going to be over one person at one address for the duration of the day. And you know that this person is mentally ill, is a demon, and is acting with impunity because of that unnatural environment, not because they're showing the fact that they're a psychopath and they're a sex offender who doesn't have to talk to you or look at you. the ease with which the demons are monitoring you, and it's provided through the environment, okay? Luke Powell's going to federal prison. He's just sitting in his vehicle while the entity sounds helicopter activity, then he just pulls off. He's going to federal prison, all right? It is currently, again, 5:45 p.m. while you're looking at that pattern of conduct. And you have what is a massive sex offense going on. You have what is state terrorism going on while you're surrounded by an unnatural environment, which is an ongoing reminder of the fact that the government is maintaining constructive presence. This is state action. And why is it state action? Because the government is stalking you in this unnatural environment, which is tying together what is their demonic behavior, what is their ongoing maintenance of presence, pursuant to everything that you do as you do it, including on a communication device. That's why this engineer light is state action. And the entity is also present, stalking, in other words, keeping you under surveillance in this specific environment. They do so in concert with the people. All right, so the demons of 18045, group stalking. All right, that's Camden, Stratford, and Marie Ennis going to federal prison. Jong Kim on this side, group stalking. The LAPD using helicopters, repeatedly pacing above me, flying all around, while the entity keeps a hold, the center of the universe. You remain the center of the universe. That's terrorism, and that's entirely psychotic, and it's 100% demonic. It is currently, again, 5:46 p.m. This is P.O.C. The entity sounding ongoing helicopter activity, which is, again, the grounds upon which I'm documenting a sex offense while the people of the state use the telephone. And because you're doing it under the guise of SCI, that's why you drain the pockets of that company. The entity uses any and everything, including its real property, which is what Todd Speaker is doing, while state surveillance is underway on his property, which he's aware of. That's why all of his employees and everybody that lives here is engaging in that state system, which is also the pattern that you see. Amazon Prime, let me be clear, Amazon Prime knows that its employees are engaged in group stalking. UPS, they know that their employees are engaged in group stalking. Ryder, Lyft, Uber, they know that their employees are engaged in group stalking in the state of California. You do not have such a broad system of what is a well-established concrete pattern and have ignorance, nor can you reasonably contend. It's the same with the corrupt law enforcement agencies. Dominic Choi, chief of police of the Los Angeles Police Department, is heavily documented engaging in what is an identical pattern of conduct amongst corrupt law enforcement agencies who are stalking in the demonic environment, and they're doing so pursuant to what is a pattern that pre-existed my relocating to LA and documenting that P.O.C. You are not ignorant. That's the entity is aware of they're being exposed, and they are fully aware of the fact that they're being exposed, and the entity engaged in what is the pattern of criminal obstruction of justice. Let me be clear, that pattern to engage in criminal obstruction of justice is why the federal prosecution and the punishment for group stalking is so severe, because the government that's monitoring you, it is within the pattern of conduct to obstruct justice. And that's exactly what my continuing documentation has exposed. And that's why you don't just go to federal prison where you are group stalking as the state. You're not just prosecuted and going to federal prison where you want to live at the crime scene or work at the crime scene as though you're going to commit that level of facilitation. You're going to help the government to that degree. No, you don't do that without spending a substantial amount of time in federal prison, because the government that's engaging in that has every intention to remove that targeted individual. The government's not targeting American citizens for naught. Okay, they're not just doing it for funsies. Let me be clear. There is a psychotic appetite. They find pleasure, which is revealing the mental illness. They derive pleasure from tormenting others. They derive that. That's satanic. That's the personality disorder. That's the demon possessed. And that is amongst the whole population. That's amongst the whole population. Okay, and you are also reasonably deducing it from the pattern of conduct, the ceaseless engagement, the continuous engagement, the obsessive engagement. You are reasonably deducing it from their very criminal activity. The helicopter activity in and of itself, okay? Not helping anyone, still sounding helicopter activity. I'm literally going to prosecute Heather Till with that. Literally. I'm going to play it bit by bit. We're going to go over her audible activity. We're going to go over the libelous emails, which is public information. We're going to go over the criminal intent that is also reasonably deduced from the pattern of conduct. We're going to go over what is a pre-existing pattern before I relocated to LA, what the people of the state have been doing before this particular demon, going by the name of Heather Till, of Speaker Companies, a third-party, illegitimate company that's engaged in state surveillance, before she opened her mouth and sealed her fate for federal prison. Before that. And then we're going to revisit what she said and what's her criminal purpose. It's obstruction of justice in conformity to a pattern of conduct. They derive pleasure, and it's to their own demise because the entity is delusional. Okay, that criminal system is no longer a secret, and everything that they do is going to be used against them. And I mean all of them. It's going to be used against every police department. It's going to be used against every sheriff's department. It's going to be used against every entity that's acting as a group, the people of the state. You're just going to individualize that criminal system. They're engaged in the same exact pattern of conduct. And you can engage in that massive federal prosecution because you have now been aware of and you're recognizing what is the massive system that surrounds them, how they're able to act as a whole population, as a community, as one against a targeted individual. And it is literally present through the environment. It is present via the state that's acting with them. And that's how you're able to engage in what is a lawful and constitutional prosecution of a federal nature of a whole population. All right, that's the state of California engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. It's 5:50 p.m. And I just want to be clear again, Speaker Companies is going to federal prison. The impunity is also exhibited. They continue to send text messages. They can do all they want. It's a sex offense. You can talk about, oh, it's legitimate because we really do have they're monitoring. They are monitoring. The purpose of the system is that it coexists with what is supposed to supersede some targeted individual's allegation, and it doesn't. Whether you actually have a clogged up toilet or whether the apartment is actually on fire or not, guess what still remains? The state is still stalking. The state is still present in an unnatural environment. Engineer light is still on the ceiling. Engineer light, my shadow is still appearing upright in the depths of a room, which is impossible. Occurring in the shade. My shadow still appearing on both sides of my person. And these demons, these ignoramuses, presuppose that they can engage in it and that it's going to have some presumption of legitimacy. That's what the demon possessed falsely assume to their own demise. But let me be clear, this is justice. Okay, this is justice because it's not going to work. And no federal government nor any federal judge is ignorant to that degree. All I have done is brought to the forefront the ability to legally analyze criminal conduct by a government of a very highly malicious nature. And then with regard to the prosecution, you're approaching it like you would any other conspiracy. You're prosecuting it like you would any other crime. It's just that the criminal is actually the government. And the government is acting in concert with the people. And they are surrounded by an ever-present specific environment. It's always there. That's how you know everybody's doing it all the time. And who's always stalking? The state. It is currently 5:52 p.m. on June 4, 2024. There is no iteration of the natural environment. And this has nothing to do with sunlight. This is just ongoing directed light remaining. And the demons are just pacing all around, keeping me under surveillance, listening to everything that I'm saying, sounding helicopter activity while I provide evidence against them. And then all they're doing in sounding helicopter activity is providing more evidence against the people who are going to federal prison. And that's the workforce of Speaker Companies. P.O.C.